So thank you very much for your patience. Now we will look at positive psychotherapy, how to apply with the client in everyday life, consultation, practice. And for this, it's very important that in positive psychotherapy that you say the client goes through some process. And essentially, it is our duty to assist the client in this process. The Spanish philosopher Spinoza, he said, perfection exhibits itself in the capacity to act. You know, there is some criticism of philosophies which only lead to the word. Every thought should lead to the action. Every thought should lead to the empowerment. And so I'm personally, I'm not so much in favor of psychological approach which doesn't look after this. We need to reflect on how can we improve human action. And this is the challenge for both us as psychologists, but also for the client. Because the client thinks much. You know, they think about all their problems, the conditions, the past, the da-da-da. But ultimately, they cannot act. They're stuck in action. So we should not reflect on the client's problem in terms of doing the same. You know, think about all the reasons, all the past, all the, you know, all the statics of their situation and things like that. It's important to understand, yes, but ultimately the measure is not the perfect understanding. Ultimately, it's the capacity to act. I give you a small example from Oriental story. You know, there were some people having a ride through the desert with a camel. And they were very happy about the camel. And in the end, they said, oh, we love the camel very much. So we should really praise the camel. So one went and he played a song for the camel. The other one, he painted the camel. And the third one, he went into his tent and wrote the perfect understanding of the camel. And he disappeared in his tent for 3 days. He came out with a long beard and dark eyes. And he said, oh, I could not finish my work. But here I have brought you 1,000 pages about the perfection of the camel. And really, we have to look that we can go to the action. So, I firstly start with giving you a brief overview of what is the so-called 5 stages procedure of the positive psychotherapy. You know, the client is in a situation of emotional excitement and of kind of frozen perspective. More or less. You can have this both in the depression but also in hysteria. But the emotion is so strong that the perception gets frozen. You know, the hysteric person, he looks on his feeling, exaggerates very much, look at me, you know, but this perception is limited. Same with the depression. So we should not get lost too quickly in the analysis. What is the difference? What is the common? The common is the freeze of the self-perception, the freeze of the this perception of the situation. So, the challenge at the beginning of the therapy, of every therapy in the world, you can call it by different names. You can call it mindfulness. But the first attempt is always to get connected. Connected to the reality of the situation in a more embracing way. Not stressed, not limited, but comprehensive. There is this beautiful Oriental metaphor of the elephant. You know, the elephant in the dark, where the team of the researchers tries to understand what is the elephant. One touches the teeth, other touches the leg, third touches the ear, fourth touches the nose. And now, this is normal. We all have our window to the reality. But the question whether we can use this window to create an impression of the reality, or whether we get stuck with our window, that's important. So the question now, if they find out together, these researchers, what is the elephant, or whether they start to fight, you know, an elephant is like this, or it's very sharp, or it is more like a brush. This is the situation. So the first stage of the therapy is to renew the observation. So this is stage 1. Stage 2 is, after we connect to the situation, to understand what is the situation like. Normally, we do it intuitively like this. You say, oh, I'm very miserable. Yes, or I'm very excited. Or I'm very nervous, something. And then you find a good friend, and he touches your hand. And he says, oh, yes, I can feel, I like, I'm with you, things like that. All of that is connecting, observation. And then naturally, the next step is, tell me what happened. Understanding. You know, and in positive psychotherapy, for this natural desire to understand, we have developed a lot of tools how to do. But these tools should not confuse us, because these tools have a purpose. The purpose is to understand. I will tell you more about the tools. Balance model, differential analysis, But ultimately it's about the necessity to understand the emotion in its uprising. What happened to you? I can see you are quarreling very much in your relationship. Very much. And now I'm good consultant. I don't say, oh, stop arguing. Or I know you should separate. Or don't worry, I feel the same. Things like that. But you said, tell me, what happened? And this is already, in everyday life, the difference between good and bad consultation between friends. You know, the bad, not wise friend, he gives the same advice to everybody. Oh, don't date with women. Or don't get children. Or things like that. But here you ask, what has happened? And the very natural thing is, you ask, what has happened recently? In the last few months, and in the psychotherapy, in the counseling, you go into the last few years. And then you can expand according to the necessity of the complexity of the problem. Obviously, if there's someone in major depression, you don't ask only what happened in the last few months. You ask what happened in all your life. But you should not get confused that you have to ask about all the life with everybody who gives you a question. You know, the depth of the inventory relates to the complexity of the situation. And then you say, oh, you know, we had these arguments in our relationship for the last 2 years. We couldn't agree about buying a house, buying a flat, getting more children, and things like that. And it's important. Then you can see, aha, it's not only about communication skills. There is some biographical depth to it. Some. It's important for your layout of the intervention later. Because some couple can be helped with communication skill. First listen, be polite, and things like that. But other couple, it's not about the communication skill. It's about some events, some values, some concepts, some optimism, and things like that. And all of this you find out when you make inventory. The next thing is that you see what has the couple resolved so far. Because you are not above and the couple is there very low, but they have managed 10 years, 20 years, so they are good. Now they have one problem where they got stuck. So you don't say, oh, you know, the very best would be you are from the Orient, you are very dependent, get more independent. But you say, well, really, I appreciate you are so faithful with each other. Throughout all these problems, you stayed together, you managed, you had patience with each other, you know, you tried again, you still emotionally connect. You argue, okay, but you connect. It's much better than not talking anymore. So you give a authentic but accurate feedback on the strength, on the resource, on the coping, because this is ultimately what will carry you to solve the problem. Without the base of capacity, nobody can solve no problem in the world. You know, they had so much patience already. And they will solve because they have the patience. They need some new ideas now. Well, and then the verbalization is to talk about the problem. On the basis of connecting to your feeling, on the basis of understanding its background. Aha, you are from Denmark, I am from China, we have different relationship to the money in the family, I know now, so I can explain to you my motive. I want to solve with you the money. I know in Denmark you have your money separate, but in China we share the money. How can we solve now? Not, I had this case, and the Chinese woman said to me, I loved my husband very much, but unfortunately now I discovered that he's crazy. Really? Yes? So, really, you need this process. You need this process to get to this readiness to solve the problem. And then you say, really, now, it's not all about the money. What do you want to do with your success? You know, now you have solved the money issue. Do you want to become rich now? Or do you want to do something for India? You know, something for the society, something for your children, and things like this. And this is what we call then the broadening, of course. So this is the first understanding of the process. And the thing is, this understanding is perfectly natural. It's not that we say, oh, you are wrong, I have the right answer. This is how everybody of us solves their problem when we are okay. Only when we are stressed, we don't do like this. Normally we say, oh, I can see my husband, my darling, you're a bit upset now. We connect, we hug, we kiss. So we release the tension. Then we ask, can you tell me what happened? The mother-in-law, she didn't behave like you liked it to be. But very good that you care so much about mother-in-law. You know, and now how can we deal with the problem? You know, I love my mother. I love you. We have to find some solution. Things like this. So this is the general idea. So now let's start with this step by step. First stage. The client comes to you, crisis. That's the definition of the situation. So, in other words, in Germany we say sometimes we don't see the forest because we are too close to the tree. That's the problem of the client. That's the problem of all of us when we are angry, when we are upset. So what we do is we relate to both. We relate to the problem, but we also relate to the capacity. And you are very lucky because Dr. Chu Han, he's so good in relating to the capacity. He says, I know you can make it. You can become everything you want. If you only believe in yourself, you can do, I did. Really, he does intuitively exactly the right thing. He relates to the capacity. But it's not that this his capacity comes out from nowhere and is positive thinking, make everything pink. It is a real capacity to endure. It's a capacity. It's not easy living. It's a capacity. But I know you can endure. So, and the most essential capacity we have is the relationship. The capacity to say, I'm ready to connect to you. That's and it works in every counseling, in every psychotherapy. And from that, it gets more differentiated. One technical way to connect to the capacity is the so-called positive interpretation. And I was very curious when Dr. Chuan said yesterday, very nice positive interpretation. Because somebody asked him, what is positive about someone who is destructive with the other people? And there is much positive about this. Someone who is destructive with the other people doesn't keep up with the problem. He wants to solve. Someone who is destructive with the other people is ready to go into the contact. The day before yesterday, I spoke with one of you, and she said, what can I do with my aggressive school children? I said, it's a problem because you are a woman. You are a little bit afraid of aggression. But you have to see the positive side of the aggression. You know, this boy has the capacity to relate to other people. He has the capacity to react with much emotion. This is not judgmental. So we don't say morally it's good behavior. But also, now we start from the relationship, but we use a little bit of the mind. We have to be ready to go into a relationship. And we can never be going into a relationship if we are not ready to see some capacity in the other person. You know, in the positive psychotherapy textbooks, you will find many, many suggestions of positive interpretation. But you should not end up with this to make like an internet database of positive interpretation to every life situation. Because ultimately it's about a relationship. You have to be ready to see positive capacity in what the other person does. And there's many and they are beautiful. One time, I had a client, he came to me to the first session without the shoes. 25-year-old, long hair. Ooh, in India it's normal, it's not so unusual. In Germany, it's very unusual, someone without a shoe. Really, even I felt a little bit offended. You know, really, it's my cultural reaction. So he came there, and then in the session, he said, whenever I was talking to him, he started to yawn. Really. You know, you are a dedicated psychotherapist, you want to say something good, and the other. And really, I became angry. You cannot imagine. But after one session or so, I felt really there is some system behind this. And I said to him, you know, whenever I talk at you, you have the capacity to relax from the situation. Really. And he smiled. Yes. And he said, it's like with my mother. She always talked half an hour to me, really, never listening to me, always only giving me advice. And I had to relate, really. I had to develop this capacity. And I can tell you, this entrance was the entrance to the whole therapy. Because he had this depression, he had lack of energy, all because he had overgeneralized his response. And again, you know, from this we could easily go into inventory. Aha, what was the topics about this? When did it happen? When did you overgeneralize? It's very good, you know, you kept your self-independence, but now how can we do it more precisely? Maybe you can find other ways to relax from your mother. Things like this. So this is so-called positive interpretation. The positive interpretation is a way to specify the relationship capacity. And there's also other ways. Humor. If you have a good joke, it's great. You know, some wife maybe come to the therapist and she says, you know, I have very strict husband. I'm very scared of him. And then maybe the therapist comes up with this joke and he says, oh, it reminds me of joke. There was one woman and the husband, he asked after she came back, and my darling, did you park the car properly into the garage? And the wife says, most parts of it. Really. And also, to create, it's about, think about the elephant. You don't want to get stuck to the one tooth. And you tell about other culture. I love to do. You know, so many German couples come to me and they say, oh, now as we have our children, we have lost all our friends. We are only at home, we are bored. And I ask, why? And they say, yes, because the children have to go to this bed at 7 o'clock. And I say, oh, you know, I have some friends from Turkey. They don't do like this. They take with them. And the children, they sleep on the ground, on the sofa, everywhere. So the idea is really to create some creativity in the first stage. And also, you listen to what does the client says. And they say, oh, I have this problem, I have so many money problem and things like that. And then, still in the first stage, you become active. Because normally the problem of many psychotherapy is that the therapist is too passive. Listen, 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 it's good. But at some point, you have to show to the client that you give some answer to their problem. And only listen is no answer. So you say, well, you and me, we start to know each other now. I can tell you what I know. I can tell you people that are healthy, they have normally some life balance. Everybody in a different way. But everybody still has their dynamic balance. So they have some energy, some pleasure about their body. They also have some capacity to produce, to achieve. But they don't completely neglect their contacts, their relationship. And also, they have some vision, some ideas for the future. And I can tell you something. This balance is always challenged in our life. You know, imagine you have a lot of workload. Then you only attend to the achievement. You forget about the context. You will forget about your health. In a situation, you have to do like this. But if you do for long and forever, it will create many problems. And you and me now, we look and how are you? Spontaneously, you have told me much about the problem at your work. And I listened very carefully, but you didn't mention many friends and things like this. So, let's look together on the whole picture. How is your body health? How is your achievement health? How is your contact health? And how is your future health? And now we can see a good thing. You are very upset about this current work crisis, but I can tell you, you have very healthy body. This is something good to start with. And also, you are quite good at your work. So, I could do much more deep. We come to an evaluation where we really look at the 4 areas and we say, well, at the moment, you have many problems here, but you have neglect here. Here is very good, and things like that. And what does it do to you? The client gets some first idea of order. Normally, when we are very sad, when we are very stressed, we feel chaos. And you can feedback to them that there is some order in their situation. Well, we have to address the work problem, but also we have to address on your contact, because it's not enough. Things like that. So you get first idea about how to intervene. So, and then as the homework in the first stage, you give to the client, please draw how is your energy at the moment. You spend much energy on the achievement, not so much on the contact. Body is quite good. Future is also quite good. Can you draw? What is your energy? And also draw to me, what would you like? What would you like? Would you like to have more of this, less of this, and things like that? And then, you and me, we will devise some program. And I can tell you of one new coaching client. He is senior director of a hospital. He came for one session, and we made this plus-minus thing. Where do you want to have more? Where do you want to have less? And for the next session, he wrote 10 pages to me about ideas. How can he reduce the energy in this area? How can he create new new initiatives to invest more substance in other life area and things like that. So we call on the resource, on the capacity. And you know, I can't, where does she sit? There she is. You and me, we just spoke before. How can you give something to the client where they can start to work? And they can start to work right after the first session with this. Because you ask the question. You make the common thing, and then you say, now you give me some ideas, how you can reduce, how you can add some substance. And they are in a position of empowerment. So, also, you can do more things. We cannot go now very deeply. You can create some self-awareness of the symptom. In behavioral therapy, this is very important, you know, to see how do you react in which situation. You called it ABC, things like that. To see, like, what is my symptoms in the area of body? I have no energy. What is my symptoms in the area of achievement? I have time problems, money problems. Again, by giving some order to the client gets out of their passive situation, only being the victim of the situation. So, we are now in stage 2. Because in this stage 1, it's about feeling yourself again. In the stage 2, is it to understand what is going on. You know, in the stage 1, you had a couple. They have many problems. And how do they react to the problem? The husband, he stays at work until 9 o'clock at night. And the wife, she calls all her girlfriends and complains about husband. Very typical. You know, so you can be positive to start, and you can say, well, you have the capacity to react very much with the achievement, and you have the capacity to react very much with the contact. It's good, in a certain way. And they themselves see, it is good, but it's too extreme. It's good that you are sociable. It's good that you are achievement-oriented. But it's not balanced. Later. We can say later to them. But now let's find out why is it like this. And this is why they can't solve their problem. And this problem is related to some value. You know, they cannot agree, for instance, on how to deal with the mother-in-law in terms of the money. Thrift economy. You know, one of them has concept to give mother-in-law all the money, other has concept, no, it's not hers. So now, in the second stage, you don't solve, you analyze. You say, you two, you now make this inventory, I give to you a copy, and next session, you mark to me, where is your crisis? Please name top 3 topic of your crisis. And also name top 3 of your love. Positive. Good and bad. You see, with both eyes, gives you the whole picture. And again, they can differentiate. That is why it's called differentiational analysis. They can say, our relationship is very good. You know, we have so much patience with each other. We love each other very much. Our body contact is very good. You know, we trust each other so much. Also, our house is clean and everything. But we have this money issue. And I say, very good. It's an important issue. But don't forget about the elephant. Your relationship is very good. You only have money issue. I can tell you, I had a couple with 20 problems. You only have 1. Very good. So, then in second stage, understanding, analysis, inventory, you also ask about what happened to you. And you start with the logic thing. You don't start what happened to you in the womb. You don't start what happened to you, in last life. You ask, what happened to you last year, last 2 years, last 3 years? And then you see, oh yes, there were, we had to build a house. There was some stress at the work. We got 2 children. You know, we couldn't agree with my brother about the money from parent and things like that. And then you can see again, how are the areas affected? And then you can see, there was many problem in this area. I can understand now why this area you have problem feeling now. So it gives both. It gives some appreciation to the client. Because you have to see like this. I know in many countries, psychotherapy does not exist. We have psychiatry. So the client comes to you and say, oh, I have depression. There is something wrong with my brain. And the pharma industry has told them that it is like this. It's brainwash. It's your brain, it's your brain, it's your brain, it's your brain. And then they believe, it's my brain. And then we say, oh, you know, but listen, in the last few years, so many things happened to you. So many things. I would have become depressed if I had all this. Really. So they connect their emotion to their life. And this is very intelligent. Normally, when we are in crisis, we don't connect our emotion to the life anymore. We say, our brain is broken, we are bad, things like this. But we cannot see the thing in the perspective. And I don't go into this. In positive psychotherapy, you have worked out very well which emotional condition leads to which area. Depression is very much here. Normally in depression, you had contact problem. You know, because, and then you have again a positive interpretation. Normally, people with depression, they are very much sociable. They love to be nice. They love to be accepted by everybody. And that's good. You can say that to them. And you can say, and I say, really, I can see you are a very sensitive person. And I wish my brother would be like you. Really, I wish. But with your sensitivity and all these arguments that happened in your family, you started to withdraw from the contact now. Because it was too much for you to solve. You wanted to protect yourself. And then also your future perspective got a bit pessimistic. But it's because you're very sensitive. I like much, really. And again, analysis, relationship, all comes one. So, and this would be already encouragement. So now I want to briefly review the 5 stages with you before we can go into some interaction. So, to solve the problem, we have to connect to the situation first. Imagine how many people do not connect to the situation. You can see it also in the politics. They don't connect to the situation. In every clash of culture, you know, in Europe, in Middle East, you have people are not ready to connect to the situation at first place. then you have to understand. Then you have to see the capacity in the problem and to name it. And also to activate other capacity. To say, well, really you can use some friends, we can use some sports and things like that. You can also add in encouragement. Then you can say, now we have understood what is the problem about, and now you and me, we do communication training, but intelligent one. So once a week, you and your wife, you sit together, you write down first what was issue to solve, that you don't get absorbed by situation too much, always talking about little things that annoy you. No. We need to have some psycho-hygiene. Don't talk about the problem all the time. Only talk about the problem, then you can solve the problem. Really. I had some client, she told to me, my husband and me, we love to discuss our sex life at the cash machine. Really. She said, I don't want to go into it. But, you know, you need to be ready to solve the problem when you talk about it. And these kind of things. And also to understand about the motive. You know, in my family, dealing with the money was a very delicate thing. My parents were quite poor. So now I compare the prices, even if it's not so useful, but it's my habit. I had couple, both manager, very successful, but they didn't take roommate because their parents were poor and they didn't afford. And then many problems came because they had to work 60 hours and to clean the house. Things like this. And here you have what would you do if the problem is solved. You know, there's joke Mr. Peseshkian liked very much. He said, you know, there's an old man coming to an old woman. He says, Erna, I have decided to leave you. Where should I go? Really, this is expansion of go. So now we can talk a little bit. Maybe you can present some client or something, and we can have some ideas how to go into a process. Okay? So have you got question or client? Maybe some. Go. Real life. Yes, real life. But maybe you talk. So. Oh, yes, please. One applause for her, please. Can you come here, please? Now we continue what has been started yesterday. So, can we speak a little bit about one of your clients?
Sure.
Can you tell a bit about one client? I think it should be some client ideally you know a little bit, you know, so you can tell a little bit about, and also where you have some emotional connection. So if you don't like client, it's becoming difficult.
Sure. This is about a client. I won't give the identifying information, but he was a student. He had completed his undergraduation in engineering, and in the campus he had no friends, and there were some problems within the friends where they had basically stopped talking to him. So for 2 years on the campus, he was feeling lonely, no one to talk to. So he started, using internet to socialize. So he wrote on the internet that I'm feeling lonely. He wrote his problems, and there was one girl from one city. She responded and empathized with him, and she told him and gave him this kind of hope that she's going to be there for the rest of the life as the bestest friend. Now, they both started, exchanging information, and they started talking every day, They exchanged address, and then after 1 month of time, she completely stopped talking to him. And this person, he kept on calling more and more and more. And then what happened, that every day, like when I saw him for the first time, he was completely depressed. He was sleeping, like he was not moving from the room, outside the room. He was not doing any work at all, stopped eating also, stopped sleeping also. And he was crying all the time that I don't know what I did, that she has completely stopped talking to me. And the more she, ignoring his call, the more he started calling. So he was very much into, I diagnosed him with clinical depression, of course. And I also referred him to a psychiatrist because he was not in a condition. But then in counseling or in therapy, whatever works, you do that, So I did try CBT, some of that. I did try to give him some, orientation for his future plans. What does he want to do? What were his plans? Like he was not even looking into his future career. He said, everything is over. My life is over now. This girl is no more in my life. So it took 1 year of, he kept on coming. And I'm very happy, to share that he's out of depression. He's joined an MBA program. And he's doing well.
Thank you very much. I think it's a very nice case. Thank you. And I think you did very good. Really.
Oh, thanks.
No, stay here.
Oh.
Yes.
Sure.
It just started.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I think you did very good in many aspects. So, you did the therapy already.
Yeah.
So we don't need to talk what to do first, what to do second, because you did already.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to share my understanding of what you did with you. So you can see what she did was very good. The main thing of the problem with this client was in the context. It's important to know. Because he felt lonely, and the contact sphere, we call that his conflict at that time, his actual conflict, the conflict at the time. So in the course of the therapy, you might start to understand what is the reason for these conflicts. Look at the actual capacities, things like this. But this is not what you start with. You start with to understand what he did. What he did, he had a problem in the context that he couldn't not solve. And when you cannot solve a problem, when one way is blocked, you choose another way. Contact way was blocked, and he went into fantasy. So it is good, because we know he is sensitive, he has some longing, and he has much fantasy. Both good. That's why positive. So, and in the fantasy, he started something which happens today very often. The fantasy has its purpose. Mr. Chauhan will agree. The purpose of the fantasy is to give us some idea how to build a new reality. That's the purpose of fantasy. If we don't have fantasy, we are dead. It is there to build a new reality. But we call it flight reaction. If this fantasy does get disconnected from the reality, we have a problem. And this is where you diagnose this client right, because he escaped into the fantasy, but the fantasy did not feed back into the real life anymore in terms of giving him some new ideas. But it became some kind of obsession. And then, when this girlfriend broke up, it was not only a contact problem for him, but also a fantasy problem. Because his dream got destroyed. And when we have fantasy problem, it's very bad. You know, there's a famous actor, she said, if you destroy our dream, you kill us. And this was what happened to him, and then he fell very deep into the hole. Here, he didn't fall so deep into the hole. He didn't have many friends, okay? But here, now we have alert in 2 areas. You know, really very bad. And what you did is you offered to him some relationship. Yes? And relationship in the way you did refers on both of them. So you gave him some contact and also some hope, only by creating a setting. And I'm sure you used also some fantasy and things like this. So you did subtly work on his problem without actually targeting it. And then you said you applied some CBT. And CBT is very good because CBT works on those 2 areas. CBT is a good therapy, and now it is becoming more embracing, of course. I don't want to get into, orthodox argument of 1950s or something. But still, CBT loves very much control. No control and day pattern. This is very good interventions of CBT. Control your thinking, get some routine into your day, and things like this. And this is strength of CBT. So what you did, you defocused. You know, first stage, the client is over-focused. He doesn't see the tree in front of the woods, in front of the tree anymore. So what you have to do, the client is over-focused, so you have to defocus. So you first go to give some attention to the areas which are not so problematic. And you strengthen them. And this is what you did.
Yeah, I did that.
Yes. So this is, and I think congratulations, really, this is very good for counseling. Because really, it's not only us doing the therapy. There is the life itself, there is the God, there's the other people, and maybe in 1 year's time, there will be a nice girl coming to him. He only needed to survive this 1 year, and she will say, oh, he's so sensitive, and he's a little bit of a daydreamer. Before I had a macho, now I like him. Really, it is okay. Life itself sorted out. But maybe in a deep psychotherapy, you would then, after stabilizing here, go more into the conflict aspects. But you don't need to do normally, in 90% of the situation, life solves itself.
Can I add something to that? I was looking into this part also, but I realized that in the family dynamics, like his parents, they are very critical, always putting him down and comparing him with the elder brother. So there were more issues, and that he didn't has developed the confidence, to make relationship. And his friends, his parents, in fact, used to say that never make friends. It's wastage of time. So he got this point, this message from his parents. So there are issues which needs to be addressed even at the deeper level.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I agree. No, I really agree. And this. Sorry, can we turn down the light again? Please? If you go to a deeper level, you will find out that here there are some conflicting concepts. And what you said was trust. Yeah? So the family concept was quite problematic about trust. And one would have to work on this. And this would be like really fourth stage, verbalization, to work through the problem. Retell us your family history of trust. Maybe go into beyond generations. Where has your family learned not to be trustful? And you find even with some culture, in the Persian culture, they tell me, the Zoroastrians, the Jewish, the Shi, they all have different pattern of trust. Now, you go into this. This is analytical, and also you go into positive capacity building to say, trust. You and me, we need to do some trust training. What can we do to develop this? The first thing is definitely the therapeutic relationship itself. So, please, if anything disturbs you, make a note, and I promise I won't be angry. Things like this. So, this is only a small glance, but you would really look into these things, and we call this the ground conflict. The conflict which is deeper buried in the ground of the biography. So you go into the ground conflict as much as needed, but not as in orthodox psychodynamic therapy as an automatic routine. You open up the ground conflict as much as needed, but in a focused way that you don't problemize the whole relationship with the parent. You only say, really, your parents are very good, but there is some issues with trust. Let's first understand why were your parents a little bit suspicious, and things like this.
Thank you.
Beautiful, guys. And really, you worked very, very good.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes, please come.
Another case of a boy who's an engineering student, and he has recently come. He has 31 backs. He's almost failed in all the class, and now it is difficult for him go and attend the classes because his friends have already cleared their engineering. Problem with him is that he has been lying by he's always lied with his parents that I'm clearing my back papers. He's taken money from them, enjoyed with that money, gone for the movies, everything, but never attended the class. He has lot of negative approach. He starts his statement with no. Any statement, even he's talking, normally, he's going to start it with no. No, I cannot do. No, it's fine, but this is the thing. No, no, no. Like his beginning is with nahi. And another problem with him is that he doesn't have a good relationship with his parents. He's very scared of his parents, although his parents doesn't trust him completely. He's given fake mark sheets to the parents every time that I've cleared. and he's not ready to get on. He wants to, but he feels that I cannot. He has a lot of negative approach. So when we are talking about positive psychology, so how can we get that positivity in him? Because this is the recent case I've just started, so I thought it would be good if I discuss with everybody here and with you as well. So if you could help in that ways. And even one more thing, even he had the problem of girlfriend. That initially he had a girlfriend who was good with him, and lately he lied his girlfriend as well. That I'm a scholar student, I have entered the college with the help of scholarship. He doesn't know why did he lie, but he lied her as well. Although he was an average normal student, he used to score more than 60% in school. So this was the basic problem with him.
This case, it might look simple because it's everyday life, but it's a difficult case.
Yes.
Why? Because truthfulness is at the bottom of everything. You know, if we are not truthful, everything else becomes problem. Faithfulness, achievement, life goals. You know, truthfulness is really very essential problem. So it's not minor thing if somebody is not truthful. It's really essential. So this case for me is more difficult, much more difficult than the other case. So I would try to stay very much, you know, it's not that all these stages are like a mechanical procedure. You go through one session, one stage. But these sessions are, these stages reflect the process itself. So one part of the process might be very important, whilst another one is not so important. And with this client, I would stay in stage 1 very much. Because he has very, very big problem. He's not truthful.
Yes.
Really. So, if you only say, oh, you're not truthful, let's now analyze the past, da-da-da-da.
But I would
He will
say
tell
that
you lies without end.
yeah, but he was truthful with me because he told everything by himself to me. That
Very
I have
good.
failed in all these classes, I have 31 bags, my girlfriend left me, everything was there. But the problem with this that he starts with no, and it is very difficult.
Congratulations.
I asked him, I gave him some things to do. He tried to do it, but the problem with this that I cannot. He has a lot of laziness in him, and he feels that he cannot. He cannot. He's full of lot of negativity.
Great.
So
So what is very good, you found some first differentiations. And this is the objective of the first stage. Chaos, emotional, mud, chaos, to differentiate. And what I would do is in the first stage, really that you praise him that he is so honest with you. Really. To appreciate and not to go too quickly into the analysis. Because in the analysis, he has figured out so many ways to lie to himself. I did this because of this, I did this because of that. You know, the behavioral friends, they will agree. There is this Alice research. When you see the problems in the past, this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy, things like that. So you don't go into that too quickly. I would stay in the first stage very long, really 5 sessions at least, so that you say, what is the capacity with this man, with this boy? He is flexible. Yes? He is creative. He creates lies. He's a producer of lies. Really. You know, there's many fairy tales about the Pinocchio, about the Münchhausen, and all these things. And, you know, I can see you are a very caring person. But maybe you are also very accurate. You know? And he's not accurate. So you have to appreciate that he's not accurate. No, you are a little bit like a genius. You don't care so much about the detail. Really. And first, one person said it yesterday, you have to treat yourself. You have to start not to be too worried about him. To say, oh, you are great, such a liar. Really. If I could lie like you, I had many boyfriends, I would be the best in school. Really. Yes? And also, he is sociable. Because he has the capacity to maintain the relationship to his parents. And really, those two things, that he is anarchistic, creative, and that he has the capacity to maintain a close relationship. Really, he has to believe that to you from his feet to his hair. If he doesn't believe that you love that in him, that you appreciate in him, he will start to lie. And then, still in the first stage, observe yourself. When do you have a little bit anxiety? When do you become nervous? Please make diary to me. Don't tell to your parent. We will never tell to your parent. No, it's only between you and me. We can burn everything out.
Yes, this task has been given to him. I've
Yes.
already given this task.
Very good. Okay. And that's what I mean. All this is first stage. You know, and then everything else will unfold itself. I have hope for this client because he doesn't lie all the time.
Yes.
If somebody lies all the time, I say, please stop lying and then come back to me.
Okay.
Really. I don't want to exhaust myself with preaching to somebody. He's only lying. But he's connecting to you.
Yes.
And really, I would do this.
Okay.
And then, you know, you will find out in second stage, if you make some analysis, that in this family, there is problem with openness. Maybe the parents also are not are not open with each other and things like this.
That is a fact. In the matter of girlfriend, it is very difficult for him because he's tried to discuss about this fact with his parents. His parents told him the other day, he came to me, that we do not belong to that country where we can talk about the boyfriends and the girlfriends. So maintain a distance. So he waited for the next day to come and speak to me about it.
Yes.
And then I talked to the parents
So,
for the flexibility.
great. Really.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's okay? I think it's really, we also have to give up that we want to solve the whole case. When you remember what we said in the beginning, perfection is the capacity to act. And if the client gets back into action, it's good. And then we can trust into the process. I'm sure, you know, you referred now even to the culture and things like this. So in the second stage, you give really interesting homework to the client. The second stage is very much about curiosity. Can you tell the story of truthfulness of your parents? How did they learn? Where did they learn? How were their grandparents like? And things like this. But don't do too early. Because first he has to appreciate that you like his flexibility and the capacity to stay in the relationship.
All right.
Yes. But you do very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, I got a message that we have to close. So, thank you very much for your attention. It was very nice for me to work with you.